up, nerds? Welcome back to the Nerdy Narrative. My name is Leslie Smith, and today I'm going to talk about all of the things that I have been reading over the last week, the books that I have finished, what I'm still currently working on, and then what I plan to read next. We're just going to dive right into my finished reads. First on the list is Changes by Jim Butcher. This was a reread for me. I have read this book many times, and every time I read it, it remains my favorite of all of the books that are currently out in the series. Being that it is book 12 in the series, by the time you reach Changes, you have a feel for the style and how things are going to go, the cases, the overarching plot. But in Changes, Jim Butcher breaks that mold a little bit, surprises his readers, and it is just absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait to continue the series. My husband should be just about done with it. I am dying. It's so hard to wait for him to reach certain spots so I can ask him what he thought about it, how do you like it. It is the slowest form of torture because he doesn't have as much time to read as I do. The good news is my torture should come to an end fairly soon because Chris loves the Dresden Files. He is hooked, and there's been several books where he stayed up late reading. I hope that Changes is another one of those books for him because y'all, I just cannot wait to talk to him about that ending. Those of you who have read the series, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I also finished Vevan Song by Jonathan Neves Mayers. This is a book that was entered into this year's SPFBO competition. It's the first book in the Vevan Song quartet. For me, Vevan Song, it was all about the plot, all about the world building. I was fascinated with these light birds that invaded this island and made humanity be forced underwater in order to live. These people were living in steel cocoons 1 mile underwater just off of the coast of the island that they fled from. While our story takes place around this one particular island, there were hundreds of these cocoons around the world. Being that I am a human myself, I wasn't as interested in their storyline as I was those of the light birds, the invaders. I was hungry to read anything about these creatures that the author was willing to feed me in this novel. Between reading the book description and chapter 1, I figured out right away what the main plot that was going to be resolved in book 1, I figured out what that was. I'm not one of those readers that gets annoyed if I figure out the ending of the book early. It's all about the journey for me because I never can figure out all of the ins and outs of how we're going to get from the beginning to the ending. The author threw me a few curveballs along the way too, so I did have a good time with Vevan Song. I immediately then began reading Dreams of Fire by Shauna Lawless. This is the prequel novella to her Irish historical fantasy series, Gale Song. I thought it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. I am going to do a dedicated review on that one. It is my intention to have that review ready to go and on the channel on publication day, which is March 14th. My last completed read for this week is the anthology edited by Jordan Peele, Out There Screaming. This is the only one that I have finished this week that I don't have a non-spoiler written review, which I should also mention. Down in the description box, I do have written reviews for all of the books that I finished this week, except for this one. There are at least 5 or 6 that I would rate as 4 and 5 star ratings. The rest I would say were middle of the road for me. There was one that I did DNF, and so I've got to sit down and think over my review and get this taken care of. But there is going to be a live show discussing this anthology, so if you've read it and you want to tune into that, it is tomorrow night, March the 2nd at 7 p.m. and it's on the channel Books and Lala. I'll link it down in the description below if you want to check it out. And one other book that I did start this week that I did DNF is Chasing the Dragon by Mark Taus. This is a dark justice novel. It is about a man, Simon, who decides to become a superhero called Reformo and help clean up his town. I made it to 23% of the way through and decided that this book was just, it wasn't for me. There were several factors that led to the DNF. One of them was strictly a personal one. I have this pet peeve where if an author repeats a phrase or a word a whole lot, it starts distracting me, and then I'm only noticing that this phrase keeps getting repeated. So our main character, Simon, was raised by a very strict mother. He is constantly hearing her voice in an inner monologue, and there are several phrases and things that she repeats over and over and over, and there's so much inner monologue that I was getting distracted by, okay, here we go again. The second factor that led to the DNF, also a bit of a personal one. I'm a visual reader. I picture things in my mind. If the author is really good at descriptions, my other senses get fooled into thinking that they taste or smell things as well. At 23% of the way in, every interaction that our main character had involved shit. He was either getting his hands in it, he was doing something with it, it was getting on him, it was on another character. It was disgusting and I just couldn't handle it. The last factor that led to the DNF, it wouldn't have been a reason to DNF by itself, but because I already had these other two issues, this one kind of added to it. There was an excessive amount of cursing. I am such a hypocrite for saying that because I curse a lot, more than the usual person, but I don't want to read it, if that makes any type of sense at all. It's just one of those things I find distracting. I don't mind cursing in books. I think a well-timed curse can add impact to a story. I do want to draw attention to the fact that all of the reasons why I DNF this book are subjective to me as a reader. Now we're ready to move into the books that I am in the process of reading, what I'm currently reading. I did get started on book 13 of the Wheel of Time series, Towers of Midnight by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. I'm about a quarter of the way through. When I started it, I just went in guns blazing. This one has been a fun reflection for me, just seeing where all of our characters are right now and where they were when we met them for the first time, and just where the pattern has placed them just in the perfect spot to help Rand with the last battle. Or are they? I don't know. I'm gonna have to read and find out. I also have just started the arc for The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. When I realized that this one was picking up 4 years after Don't Fear the Reaper and where Jade Daniels is right now, I got tears in my eyes, y'all. It's so special. I can't wait for those of you who have read the first 2 books to get this one in your hands. But I'm only 11% of the way through. I still have a lot of book to go. I'll be talking about it in weeks to come. Of course, I will have a review forthcoming, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Other things that I picked up. So over the last few years, I've read 2 series that I've loved. The Rook and Rose by M.A. Carrick and Book of Thrice Dead by Joseph Sell. Both of these series has a unique aspect that involves the tarot cards and reading these cards. And I thought, you know what? I would like to look into that. I would like to research it, learn more about it, and try my hand at it. So I picked up a book on Kindle Unlimited called The Easiest Way to Learn Tarot Ever by Dusty White, and I've read through the beginning of it. I'm to some exercises. I stopped there because I want to read more about the history. I want to read from several different authors, and I have another book here that I got, Tarot Made Easy by Kim Arnold, and this was recommended to me by author Joseph Sell, who is one of the authors responsible for my desire to learn more about this. So this one actually is a good segue to talk about what am I going to read next once I finish some of these other books. So first up, we've got Tarot Made Easy. I am finally going to read The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there in the cosmos. This is going to be a 5-star read for me. So many people who have the same reading taste as me has read and loved this book. They have flown through the rest of the books in the series, and this book is in the finals for this year's SPFBO competition. I am so excited to finally read this one for myself. I can't wait. Speaking of SPFBO, I believe this next review request by an author was also entered into this year's competition. The title of this one is Galaxy of Thorns, Rise of the Empress. All I want to know is, this character looks like a giant. Why? Is she a giant? Is she the Empress? I don't know. I kind of don't want to read the book description. I've been holding off on it. I know that I read it at the time the author asked me if I'd be interested in reviewing it, and I said yes. So there was something about it that intrigued me, and I just want to know who this is. I just want to know about this character. That's what struck me about it, and it may have been the reason why I said yes to the review. That's me. I am totally the type of person that will say yes based on a cover alone. It's the same as cover buying, in my opinion. And then finally on the TBR, I'm going to be getting started on Dreams of Dust by Lily Ann Crow. My goal is to get Dreams of Dust reread. This was a 5-star read for me. I think I read it in 2 days the first time I read it. And then I want to follow up with River of Stars, so I'm ready for book 3, which may be out at the end of March or even April. And that is going to do it for me this week, y'all. Those are all of the things that I finished. Non-spoiler written reviews for all of the finished books except for Out There Screaming are in the description box below. In addition to the written reviews, you will also find links for all the books discussed in today's video if you would like to read more of their book descriptions and even pick up a copy for yourself. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have some fun planned for the weekend. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.